Kennedy's is delighted to have published a report into the impacts of COVID-19 and what that will mean to the future of risk. As with all of our thought leadership reports, we have taken the approach of talking to both consumers and business leaders across a variety of sectors in a variety of countries in order to ascertain changes in perspective and behaviours which have allowed us to make recommendation to our clients. Our findings are particularly pertinent to the workplace and reinforce that as a result of the pandemic, we have experienced wholesale changes to our lifestyles and also to the way in which we work. The findings also confirm the important role that insurance has in building resilience for both the day-to-day as well as for those unexpected events, but that as with other sectors, insurance also will need to adapt as a result of the pandemic. Our research has identified a number of key risk themes, and I'm going to pass to Ingrid to start with the first one, which is in relation to new cyber threats.
Hello, everyone. Well, of course, we're all working from home pretty much all the time if we're able to. And it seems that even after the easing of the lockdown measures, the new pattern is going to be at least most of us working for 60% of the time in the office, perhaps, and 40% at home, or 50-50, some kind of a new part-time in the office split. And that will lead to us all relying on our technology even more than we have done in the past. We've all got good at using it over the lockdown period, but I'm not sure that we're aware just of how much of an exposure it presents from a cyber perspective. So we understand from our survey that people are likely to take fewer online precautions when working from home because they're using their system in almost a personal capacity. Only 57% of workers said they practiced safe browsing when they were working online from home. Obviously, home working doesn't absolutely need to lead to increases in cyber risk, but it's educating our workforces and making sure that people take passwording and encryption processes very seriously. Cyber risk insurance over the whole of the product is poorly understood by the end user. Just 1 in 5 people hold an insurance policy have noticed that their insurer includes cyber risk, within the existing policies. So it's just something to bear in mind that it is likely to be a product that becomes more valuable to us all moving forward, and we should all endeavour to understand how it operates. In addition to other realities of the home working environment, the findings present major implications for maintaining high professional standards, especially in sectors where face-to-face conduct is the norm. So large numbers of people envisage a blended working pattern going forward, with about 26% in professional services expecting to spend nearly all their time working remotely. 11% in health services expect also to be working remotely, which we anticipate would accelerate telehealth models. So the downsides, of course, to that picture are that there'll be a lack of spontaneity, and it'll be very difficult for learning by osmosis for juniors and for people to spark off each other in an office environment to generate ideas and be creative. There is also widely reported Zoom fatigue and associated lack of attention to detail and a feeling of connection with some of the work and the people you're working with. So the sharing of knowledge and sharing of experiences, all of the very immeasurable but very valuable benefits of working together in an environment like an office where we collaborate are being lost. And I suppose it's almost difficult to imagine the impact that that might have, particularly on younger people trying to come through the ranks and to make connections that are necessary for progression. So if there's an absence of managerial support on the ground, it's suggested that 34% of home workers will make more mistakes during lockdown, and the figure in financial services is suggested to be something like 44%. So as we professionals migrate away from face-to-face service to more digital delivery, employers will need to support their workers in new ways to ensure that there's a maintenance of quality work product. So the failure to address that issue will possibly expose us to future claims in professional indemnity arena. So that's one to watch. Handing back to Deborah now.
Thanks, Ingrid. And then continuing with that shift in the way in which the workplace may continue to look as we go forward, the working from home also presents subtle dangers to working in the office, so raising health and safety considerations. And it raises the question now as to whose responsibility is the health and safety of the home working setup. And our research indicated that 2 in 5 workers feel that their employers should be responsible, compared to just a quarter who see it as their own responsibility. The other aspect to the home working and health and safety is the actual physical impact on the human body as a result of lockdown, and that is certainly seeming to be felt already. 48% of home workers say they have had aches and pains during the lockdown period and working from home. And interestingly, younger does not necessarily mean fitter. Those aged between 18 and 35 are the most likely age group to report more aches and pains from home working, with 52% saying that they have had more pain since the start of lockdown. Another question to raise is whether people are becoming more glued to their screens. And over half of home workers feel that they have now had fewer screen breaks as a result of working from home than they do in the office. And then the other aspect, of course, to physical health, as Ingrid has touched upon, is the mental health of our workers and the strains in which the working from home environment can impose on people. And indeed, 47% of those in our survey said that they are finding it much harder to switch off from work in the evening, and something like 43% are finding it harder to sleep at night, which are obviously considerations that all employers are going to need to take on board. Now, the other aspect that the pandemic has raised is in relation to transport and the way in which we move around may look differently going forward. Indeed, the research has indicated a very significant shift in our habits when it comes to travel. 90% of workers expect their working and commuting patterns to change permanently. And interestingly, at the outset of the first lockdown in the spring of last year, 2020, all modes of transport, perhaps with the exception of cycling, witnessed large drops in daily volumes. As economies reopened, we've seen the increase in private vehicles rebound very strongly, and it looks as though they are set to last. And a lot of the reason for that is concerns over using public transport. The long-term move away from public transport does, as I suggest, look to continue, with over 20% saying that they will use a bus or train less in the future. And indeed, nearly half of those in our research, 45%, who rely on public transport to get to work, said that the social distancing and public health issues remain their primary concern. That helps to explain perhaps why so many workers are continuing to work from home. It also explains why the number of journeys made by private vehicles has bounced back quickly following the first lockdown. Indeed, 27% expect to use their car to travel to work more in the future because of COVID. Now, the increasing use of personal vehicles for professional purposes creates immediate coverage issues around motor insurance, and the growing use of e-scooters, for example, presents further challenges to our transport liability framework, given that they are illegal to use except on private land. So overall, the report has highlighted that we need to be very careful in assessing the emerging risks arising from COVID, and that for businesses, they are going to need to look carefully at areas of exposure and hone in on the important role of strategic scenario risk planning. I wanted to end with a question to Ingrid in relation to the future of insurance. We can't ignore the fact that COVID has thrown the insurance sector into the spotlight in relation to insurance claims over policy wording. What do you feel insurance must do now in order to regain consumer trust?
Gosh, that is a broad question, difficult to answer in a couple of sentences, but I think that trust the word you use, trust, is very important. And I think that comes from certainty in relation to the products that are being sold, clarity in the policy wordings. I don't think anyone expects insurance to cover everything, but what they do want going forward is an understanding of what they can rely on in the event of a claim. And if the pandemic has taught us anything, it is that people are going to work more agilely. They are going to want to use technology. Insurance needs to respond to the technology challenge, to be a user-friendly medium, and to work hard with its customer base to rebuild that trust, and to provide products that people can rely on in the future, and that they know what is and isn't covered, because not everything will be, but clarity as to what is the important thing.
Yeah, thank you very much.